I mean, over the years, you don't really come to know who you are for a very long time. As you get older and you start realizing who you are and where you fit in, I love being a sideman. I love it. I like to be that guy that supports the guy.
Earl Slick has spent more than 50 years beside some of rock and roll's biggest names, David Bowie, John Lennon, Buddy Guy. But this isn't really a story about standing next to legends. It's a story about rhythm and instinct and service and discovering what only you can bring to the music.
You look great, Earl. If you have an inclination to play anything for us today, that'd be great.
You know what? I wake up with this fucking thing in my hands every day.
Tell me more.
I have to. Yep. And it's really cool. I've got two 5-watt amps wired together.
Yeah.
So I've got this like 1960 little Gibson 5-watt thing, and I've got the Fender Tweed little 5-watt guy. Man, these things sound so good. I should have learned my lesson about using giant amps in the studio years ago.
Right. Yeah. I've got my Blues Junior right here. That's the one
Oh, man, you know what? That Blues Junior is one of the best amps they ever made. I've used it on a shitload of sessions lately.
Yeah.
And sometimes what I'll do is if I need a little bit more oomph, I'll disconnect the speaker and put it into a 4x or a 2x.
Yeah.
I did this at a gig in Scotland last year in June. There was a bunch of guys on there, and we did like a blues jam, and I didn't have the right amp for me. So they bring this giant Marshall in. I'm going, no. So I said, leave the cabinet and get me a Blues Junior. I stuck it in there, and you should try it, man.
Oh, yeah.
Try putting that into a 2x12 is perfect because you get more headroom on a distortion. It's great.
Well, what are you holding there, Earl? What do you got? What are you playing
This is
today?
This is my Nash. Okay, look at the headstock. It's a Telly headstock, but it's a Strat. Bill did it for me, Bill Nash.
Bill Nash, right.
We're good friends, and I got this guitar as a gift from a friend about 7 or 8 years ago, but it had a 70s neck on it. I hate those things. But this has got like the 50s neck, the round, and also it's scaled down to a Gibson scale, so it's a little shorter.
Oh, nice.
Very unusual. It's a great guitar.
And pickups, what are you using on that?
I don't know what he put in here, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
They look like normal Strat pickups. They're not one of those ones with the big magnets that you can see through. It's regular poles,
Yeah. You're not big into pedals, are you?
No. You know what pedal I got in there right now? I found this really cool compressor years ago. Somebody gave me. It's called the Bird Box. They spell bird with a Y. And it's got EQ on it. It's not your typical... It's a great little device, man. Really cool. No, I'm not big into pedals. Normally, live, I have a fuzz tone. I don't like overdrives. That's it. And maybe a little delay pedal. That's the whole thing.
You've seen all that shit come and go, and like DiMarzio, you were the guy who went to him and said, "Listen, I need a different sound. I need to break that sound before the volume of my Marshalls will break it, right?" And so you were the guy that basically got DiMarzio to respin your.
That is
your
true
pickups.
because the way that happened was my vans kept getting fired because I'm so belligerent that I wanted to use my 100-watt Marshalls, so. I was wondering, because he was repairing my guitars. This is before it was a company.
Yeah.
And he said, is there anything we could do to these pickups or something to make this guitar louder? And that's what he did. He overwound them for me. He gave me some special pickups. which eventually I think turned into the early Super Distortion ones. But that's how that started. And it helped. I was still louder than shit, but I was able to break up at a lower volume. Because I don't like breaking up with a preamp. I like turning it. My amps are always on 10. Rest of it's done with my fingers.
Magic fingers. I got to say, you've been on the cutting edge, Earl, I think, for a lot of reasons. Technology, sound, like, for me, you're like, you and the people who do the stuff that you do, whatever their instrument is, are the foundation of the industry, right? Without you, nothing happens. Visions don't get put into place without players like you.
Thank you. You know what's funny what you just said, though? I've only become aware of that recently, over the last maybe 8 or 9 years, that I was at the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm only 10 years away, time-wise, from when Elvis had his first big hit.
Yeah.
So basically, when I started playing in bands, the industry, it was a baby. It was a 10-year-old kid. Now the fucking thing is like a grandpa now, rock and roll.
What we do now is built on the foundation that you laid, Earl.
Well, I really feel fortunate that I was born when I was born, where I was born. Because have you ever read a book, it was called, oh my God, it's a Malcolm Gladwell book, Outliers.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah.
It's a great read because I got the book, right, and I'm reading it, and it really, the impact of what month you were born, what year you were born, where you were born. What if I was born someplace in the middle of fucking Iowa, but I was still me and I was still as good as me? I'd still be there.
Right.
I was in New York City when it was just rocking, man. I mean, there was a club called Max's Kansas City that it had the downstairs thing was like a sort of a bar. You can get snacks and drinks. And upstairs had a really tiny room and they had bands in there. Even the Dolls, first time I saw the Dolls, they played up in the upstairs room.
You were there before CB's. You were there when shit was cracking, right? First cracking.
Yeah. I mean, hence my organic approach to the guitar.
Yeah.
Tell
me what Brooklyn. You were born in Brooklyn, 51. Is that right?
1951. Jesus Christ, it's a fucking long time ago.
Right. Yeah. Tell me. So obviously the Beatles and the Ed Sullivan gig, and then the Stones. What kicked it off for you? What was the thing that got you into music?
You know what? And looking back on it, I didn't. I realized till years later there was a lot of music in my house. My dad was locked into, because he was a World War II vet, so he was locked into the whole Glenn Miller big bands thing, right? And then all the Italian stuff, Lou Monte and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. My mom, though, and I don't understand this because my mother couldn't speak English till she was 6, but she listened to country music all the time. I think that got embedded in my head somewhere.
Like Chet Atkins and Jerry Reed.
Oh, yeah, matter of fact, she actually had a Chet Atkins record that I used to listen to and try to copy when I was learning, and all that really cool shit. So I was hearing it because she played it when I was little. So it's got in there, it got in my brain somewhere. And the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show kicked it off because all of us, man, we were all 12 or 13 years old. And we're looking at these guys, the way they looked, the screaming girls, and I'm going, shit, this is what it's all about. Yeah. So the next day, literally, everybody in school, because we all had little short haircuts, right? What little hair they had, they were trying to comb it down to get bangs like the Beatles, and we were putting together bands, like literally the next day. None of us even played. Yeah. Okay, you'll be the bass player, you'll be the guitar player, and that started it all. It was the Beatles. What we saw made an amazing. I don't think that you can explain to anybody that was born in a later time the impact that had, because now we're so overloaded with shit that there doesn't seem to be impacts from anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was it was a one-off thing.
I mean, you're leaning guitar right out of the gate. Who is it that makes the most impression on you?
You know, at first, funny enough, it was Brian Jones that I was watching. Because of I started playing slide when I was like 13 or 14. Because I saw him doing it on TV. And you know, the way he looked at it. But then, not long after that, I really zoned in on Keith. I really did. I kind of still do. I mean, you know.
I mean, what's not to love, right? That guy.
Right, man. The part of Keith that really has stayed with me all these years, and that I found to be the most useful and most fun part of my guitar playing is playing rhythm.
More than lead?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to blues stuff, that's a whole nother ball game, right?
Yeah,
But when it comes to, like, you know, records I did with Bowie or lots of other records, you know, I'm not big on doing long solos. I like to do solos that make sense. You know what I mean? There's always a melody somewhere floating around in those solos.
Yeah. This is kind of what I was thinking about when we first started the conversation, Earl, is the foundational layer that you put down, I think is really, it's, you know, call it support, call it sideman, call it, you know, whatever we want to call it. You're not standing out. You're not putting yourself in the front to be the rock and roll guitar hero. You're there to support the vision, especially with David. I mean, Bowie, right? And even Lennon.
I mean, you know, over the years, you know, you don't really come to know who you are for a very long time. You don't, because you're so busy doing what you're doing, and as you get older and you're still playing, you start realizing, you know, who you are and where you fit in. And I love being a sideman. I love it. I mean, I've done tours where it's been an Earl Slick tour. You know, I don't like doing them. I don't like doing them. I don't want I like to be that guy that supports the guy.
Yeah.
You know, and with Bowie, what was interesting about it, especially in the 2000s, I was way up front more, but that was his choice. We had a thing that we would do on stage. We knew each other so well that I knew that if it was time for me to come up front, I could feel it. And without us looking at each other, all of a sudden I'd come up and he'd go in the back. So I had the opportunity to be like a sideman, frontman to a degree, you know, and I like that, you know.
How long were you with him? 50 years, right? I mean, you worked.
I just read something recently that I'm the longest one from beginning to end. Because I was the second guitar player, right?
Yeah,
so I came in right around Diamond Dogs. And I came in and out over the years, and I played, you know, all the way to the last actual Bowie band record. Because I'm not going to count Black Star in there.
Right.
Because that was a whole different thing. It wasn't any of us band members. You know, he picked those guys for, you know, a reason for the kind of record he wanted to make. And I also think at the time, because I didn't know he was sick until I heard that he died on the news. So I'm pretty sure, well, I think first it was the music. He wanted these guys in that more of a jazzy kind of thing. But also, I don't think that he wanted any of us to see him at the end.
Right. That makes sense, doesn't it?
Yep, makes a lot of sense.
I mean, aren't we all that way? It's, you know, we want to be remembered how we were when we were full of life and vivacious.
Yep. We stopped touring, you know, after we had that heart attack. And then when we did the Next Day album, because I came in at the very last week and a half or 2 weeks of it, and we did it one track, I think it was called You Could Set the World on Fire. And I did the solo, and we sat back and listened to it, and he goes, man, that would be great live. And my brain goes, oh, really? So I looked at him, and before I could say anything, he said, don't even think about it. So that was the day I knew he wasn't going to ever tour again.
That's a terrible day.
As long as he was still breathing, we always thought, you never know, we could go out again, but never happened.
Favorite album?
Station.
Yeah, easily, right?
Hands down, man. Because that one, there was no template. We went in there with chunks, bits of songs, and we put it together in the studio. We did rehearse for 2 days, I think, just to loosen up and just knock some ideas around, and went right in the studio with a bunch of unfinished songs, which was great, because we spent, once we got the basic tracks down, David and myself spent a lot of time with the overdubs.
I don't know if you can answer this, Earl, but tell me, Stay and Golden Years, those riffs are, monumental. And you go into a studio, it's nothing you've thought about, really.
Well,
where does it come from?
Okay. So, yeah, when we finished the basics, we'd go in the studio for the solos and the overdubs and rhythm overdubs, and we would just sit there and work them out. Working on that record, or any record I did with him, especially that one, it wasn't like you were a session player and he gave you, I can't even read a chord chart. So it was basically, I go, well, what do you think? He goes, what do you got? I play a riff. Okay, and he go, all right, or he'd go, I got an idea, can you go in this direction? And then he'd pull stuff out of me. That's when it started. He pulled stuff out of me at station that I didn't even know that I had in me. And the album, it's a special record because, when I listen to it now, at the time they called it groundbreaking. It seems normal to me now. I guess at the time it was groundbreaking.
I remember that album came out, and it was amazing.
Well, Stay is interesting. There's a song that he recorded years before that we used to play live once in a while called John I'm Only Dancing. He goes, I want a heavier rocker version of this. Slicky come up with a lick, right? So I kept noodling around, and finally I came up with that lick. And that was going to open the song up. But then we got in the studio, and all of a sudden he took the riff and a lot of the chord changes from John I'm Only Dancing, and he rewrote the whole thing into Stay. If you listen to both songs, you'll hear it. And Golden Years, I inadvertently ripped that off. Okay, so he needed a riff.
Your secret's safe with me, Earl.
This is great. I love this. And I didn't realize till years later what I had done, so I think the riff... Hold on. I don't know if you can hear this.
I can hear
Hear that?
Yeah, it's good.
Right?
Yeah.
So, now listen to this. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
That is Outside Women Blues from Cream, from Just Really Garris.
Well, if you're gonna rip off,
I didn't even know I did it until years later. I'm going, that's where I got that from.
well, we won't tell anybody. Your secret's safe with us.
Well, they already know, man. It was. It would have to be coming from an avid, fan that would put two and two together.
Yeah. Good story, that. So for me, Stay is it's a great example, not just of the riff, but also your let's call it your rhythmic intelligence, this thing that you have that I think you always bring that defines a lot of Bowie's sound, for me at least, where you're playing. And that's just that rhythm, that feel.
The rhythm to me, it's the heartbeat, man. It is. And I really did learn that watching Keith Richards. I really did over the years. And if you look at any live Stones video, right, any show, watch Keith all the way going back to like the 70s, where he's always by Charlie. It's all about that rhythm section of the Stones. I loved Bill Wyman, by the way. He was perfect. But Keith and Charlie, that was the rhythm section. Most bands, it's the bass player and the drummer. Stones, it's not.
Let's talk a little bit back to how you got started with Bowie and the Diamond Dogs tour. You came on to replace Mick Ronson. Backstory there, but so for me, for that moment, when I listened to that album, when I listened to David live, it sounds to me like this is getting back to our earlier conversation. You're redefining his sound in that, for me, in the record, in that era. You're creating something that isn't Mick Ronson. You're creating something that's a new version of Bowie.
Well,
And
that was thank God, because one of the things that I hadn't thought about when I actually got the gig was that when right before rehearsals, I had a kind of a panic attack going, do I have to do Mick Ronson?
Right.
Do I have to sound like that? Do I have to play those riffs? He goes, no. I love what you do what you do. Thank God, because you know what? When you got a guitar player like that, Mick, to me, still, and I think he was the best guitar player Bowie ever had. And that excludes me. It's him. I really think so. And it was great news that he didn't have to do that. I'm not good at that.
yeah,
I'm not. I mean, I have some solos that some of my favorite guitar players played, and I can make it sound like them, but I'm not good at. Some guys can do these things note for note. I can't do it. I can't even do, except for one or two solos of every Bowie record I ever made that I ever played live, that I actually played the solo from the record. And stay as one, station, when it goes in up tempo. Every time we've ever played that song, I have not deviated one note from the original solo.
that's a lot of discipline to be able to do that.
You know what
every
it
time.
is? It's like, I do mess with stuff. And he liked that, by the way. He liked the fact that, like, out of nowhere, I would do a whole different thing in one of the songs. Like, sporadically. And he did it too. So it was loose. That way we didn't sound like a fucking jukebox.
Yeah. Let's talk about your film, Earl, The Sidemen. I mean, it's been out for a few years now. I think it's 8 years ago you made that. But
The Rock
that's
and Roll Sideman movie,
Yeah.
which, man, I'll do my bitching first. It was the BBC did it, and they put it out. The director was Francis Whately, and I had already done 3 films with him. He did some Bowie films. He did the first one that started doing it. It was before David died. We were doing them, and so we did the thing. And originally, we were told it was going to get licensed after they played it for X amount of time. They never did. And I don't think this is my ego. I try to look at things objectively, and I've seen other so-called rock and roll films, and they're just like the same old bullshit. Guys driving up Sunset Boulevard on motorcycles and blah, 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 blah. What I wanted to do was to make a film that showed who and what a sideman is.
Yeah.
Right? And what gave me part of the inspiration came from 20 Feet from Stardom, because it really showed you, things that people in the public aren't aware of. And that's
right.
why we did the film. And we brought in, everybody from some of the Stones, because we have interviews with Keith and Mick and Charlie and Ronnie. Also, oh God, we had like a sax player from Beyonce. We covered everything. We had Wendy and Lisa from,
right.
Prince's Girls.
Yeah.
And the one thing I did tell the director at the beginning, I said, we have to get Steve Cropper. I don't care what you have, if you've got to break into his house to convince him. And they did, because he's really the first, what I call the first actual sideman.
Yeah.
Because back in those days, the band that played on the records was never the band that played live. We had record guys and live guys.
Right.
But Otis Redding did not want to go out without Steve on tour. And so he started doing both, because he did have the band with Booker T, right? Booker T and MGs. But as far as playing backup for other artists, he's the first one that really did both. He played on the records and live.
I think that film is really, I want to say it's emotional for me watching you guys, all the artists that you bring out in that show. It's a powerful film, Earl.
You got to give the director a lot of credit for that, because however he did this, he got people to loosen up and be real.
Yeah.
The Wendy and Lisa one is very, it's intense, man.
It's intense.
And the Otis thing, I watch the film once in a while, But every time I watch the Steve Cropper thing, I'm holding back tears the whole time because, man, he was so emotional during that interview. He was wonderful. The fact that he even agreed to do it,
Yeah.
it's an honor for me because he was the linchpin, in my eyes, the first real sideman.
He is the linchpin, and I think the relationship that you and Bernard have developed as well is
Oh my
also
God!
really
I
something.
miss Bernard so much, but he's going to be doing that thing in Scotland that we'll talk about in a little while.
Oh, good, cool.
Yeah, because he's going to cover like the bulk of the songs, and then we're going to have a few guests come in as
Oh,
well.
that's awesome. Let's talk about that now. Tell me what's happening. This is Bowie on the Loch, you said, right?
Yeah, after David died, we went out and we did a couple tours, which were basically, small theaters, and it was the gig. It was a lot of original guys, myself, Mike Garson, Carmine Rojas, a few other people. Bernard, though, was the main singer, and then we'd get guests once in a while, right? And then maybe we'd sign a few T-shirts. This time what we're doing is with Cameron House, which is a resort in Scotland, about an hour away from like downtown Glasgow. And wonderful place. It's a really old building, but they did put an annex of new stuff, and it's huge. Then they've got a small movie theater in there, and we're setting up. We got a Michelin chef dinner that they'll have with the band. It's a 2-day event. So one of the nights we play a show with the guest stars. We'll do a Q&A with the audience. Then the next day there'll be the dinner thing. The next day is going to be more hands-on, where we're going to have a few of us, during the dinner thing, maybe sit down and do acoustic versions. Also, we're going to be we've got some film that nobody's seen of David that we're going to show in the theater. We're also going to have an auction where, I've got guitars so far. I had to write this down because my brain don't remember. I got them from Pete, my friend Pete Frampton. We got a bass from Duck McKagan. We got a signed guitar from Brian May. We're getting one from Cliff Richard.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's a great lineup.
So there'll be, I think, a half a dozen guitars at the auction, and there'll be more at a silent auction. But the idea is it's not going to be the usual, because I stopped doing those things a while ago, the Bowie tribute things, because the first couple of years, I think it was good. It got the audience to kind of, mourn a little bit. It got us to get together and do all that as well. But after that, it started to feel like a money grab when the promoters were calling us. Matter of fact, I did one in Ireland about 4 or 5 months ago, and it's the first one I'd done since before the pandemic. And when I did it, I remembered why I don't do them anymore. And that's why we're doing this. It's a multimedia event. There's going to be like holograms of David. There's, it's going to be a lot of cool shit going on. And I've got Bernard's going to cover most of the vocals. I've got, so when I had to put the band together, I inadvertently put together the Glastonbury band. I didn't even know it until my manager calls. He goes, "Oh, you put together the Glastonbury band." I said, "I did." And I looked and I said, "Holy shit, I did."
I mean, if you got to make an error, that's a good one to make, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, what it was. It was basically who was available and who wanted to do it.
Yeah.
It turned out to be the same band. I want to keep everything UK. For a number of reasons. I mean, that country has treated me so well. Every country in the UK, because my roots all there. If I look at my career, 90% of actually, most of my success came out of people that were Brits. But between, Bowie, Lennon,
John Waite,
Tim Curry,
yeah,
The Cure, which I'm on the box set. We redid a song called "The Forest," and they actually call it the Earl Slick version on there, which is cool. It's all Glenn Matlock, who I became best friends with. He's one of my favorite guys on the planet.
Yeah.
All Brits.
Yeah. And you've had some amazing Brit venue experiences as well. Like, the only time you say that you get real stage fright is the Hammersmith Odeon, right?
You know what? playing in a small venue almost feels like I just went to Times Square and took all my clothes off and just sat there embarrassed. It's scary. It's like when you play these the big gigs, right? I mean, the audience, think about it. Even at an arena, not even a stadium. I mean, there's that big empty spot, the security gate, but at a smaller venue, they're like right here. We did this thing called the Five Boroughs Tour. It had to do with the New York Marathon. So we played one gig in each borough, a small one. We even played a place called Jimmy's Barbecue or some shit in the Bronx. And the biggest one was the Beacon Theater, but the rest of them were little. They were little. We played this tiny theater on Staten Island. That's a place called Sailor Snug Harbor. It's a very old place. It's protected, so they're not going to knock it down. And all the old merchant marines that had no families, when they retired, that's where they went. And there is this tiny little theater where we played in there too. Those are just terrifying.
The Beacon is a hell of a theater too to play.
I love the Beacon.
Oh yeah,
that one. I've played there a number of times. I've sat in with people with the Beacon. And the best Stones video ever made, in my opinion, is the Scorsese one that he did at the Beacon. Yeah. And I told him that last time I saw him. And I'm not that kind of fan guy that does that kind of stuff but I couldn't help myself.
Yeah.
I said, Marty, what, hands down, the best Stones live thing. You captured it.
He sure did.
And you know what? The theater also, it just sounds great. It feels great.
It feels great.
It's a great theater, So when we do this thing in Scotland, it's going to be intimate.
It's a benefit, this show that you're putting on.
Yeah, this is it's with Save the Children, right? And we want to do something good right now because the auction itself is going to be great because there'll be some money made off of that.
Yeah.
So it goes right to the charity. So everybody on board, man, I've got myself, Sterling Campbell on drums, Gail Dorsey on bass, Mike Garson playing piano, and Mark Plati's going to be playing rhythm guitar and a little bit of bass. And he's going to be the musical director, and Bernard Fowler's going to do the fronting, and then there'll be the guest stars. We want to do it right,
What are you playing now, Earl?
Oh, I'm right. I'm just sitting. I noodle blues all day. Do you hear the howling in the background?
I hear the howling.
Every time I play, let me see.
That's your newfie, right?
Yeah, it's a newfie. Where is he? He's on the couch right now because that's one of his spots he likes to hang out in. But no matter where he is, even if he's out, I have a doggy door and he's got a big deck and it's a big yard all fenced in. I could be in here playing and I can hear him out there. Thank God the neighbors don't mind. I mean, I'm in a remote spot, but, I'm in the woods, but you hear it. You can hear it a quarter of a mile from here over the lake if you're here when I'm really pumping it.
What was your first guitar, Earl?
My first guitar was a Dan Electro convertible, which was the typical Dan Electro body with that. It was just so cheap what they made it out of. I think some kind of Formica. It looked like those kidney-shaped, like coffee tables they made in the 50s. That's what the top looked like. Okay? So, it did not, it was hollow body. It looked just like the Jimmy Page one, only a different color. But it didn't have pickup or anything. So, they had the holes cut for it, and they just put silver buttons in them. So the idea was, when you got good enough, you'd buy the electric kit. Your dad could snap it in for you, and he paid $30 for it. That's how I learned on that guitar.
And did your dad do that for you? You converted that kit?
Of course he didn't. Because what he told me, as soon as he got there, he said, "That's it." figure it out, you know. I mean, I think he did it more to just shut me up than anything else, But he said, if you want any other guitars, you got to work for it. So every summer during high school, I would get a job. So, I remember some of them distinctly. I wanted to get a Fender Deluxe amp, right? So I looked around. I saw what they cost, right? The minute I made exactly that much money at my job, I quit. Every summer I did it. That's how I did it.
The rest is history,
and
right?
And then one year there was a teacher's strike. It was great because I got to buy 2 things that summer. And, my first electric was a Hagstrom 2, I think. These are odd guitars, too. It was a solid body wood, but it had this, plastic top on it. And then I went for it. And I traded that in because, seeing Jeff Beck with a black-faced telly, that was it.
Yeah.
Went and got one. But, it wasn't like now where I got a nephew that plays, in a band, and it's not, that's not really a source of income. Fucking kid's got 20 guitars. I'm not. This is going to start sounding like I used to walk to school in the snow with no shoes on, But it was all we had. So you had to learn how to use these hands to make sounds because we didn't have all the trickery.
That telly that you had.
Oh, I loved the telly, and then I saw Clapton with an SG, so I traded the telly in, and then got the SG, which I still have, actually.
That original one, the first one.
I have it. Yeah, the thing is that over the years, think about this. In the late 60s, even early 70s, there wasn't anything called a vintage guitar. Right?
It just was an old beat up guitar, right?
Yeah, when we looked at something like that, we said, that's a used one. I don't want a used one, right? Yeah. Because the Telecaster, when I got mine, the guitar was only 14 years old, right? So to me, it had to be new. Now, people want, the oldest one they can get, and they're willing to sell their house to get one.
Yeah, that's right. So your SG you beat that thing to death over the years.
You know what? I'm going to grab it and show it to you. We put it back to the original. Give me a sec.
Yeah, let's see it. There it is. Look at that. Oh, man. For some reason, I thought yours was cherry.
Okay, now here's the story. It was cherry, but that cherry finish was translucent so you could see grain.
Yeah.
So, like I said there, who the hell knew that down the line, if you left the guitar original and sold it 40 years later, holy shit, you'd make a ton of money, right? This was all new. So that was for the first DiMarzio pickups. They went in this guitar. So first we cut a hole for one humbucker, then we cut a hole for another humbucker. So when we did the refinish, we couldn't do that because even when he stripped it, you could see where he filled in even under the paint. But I said, but it has to be a real color. So they did make these in this, whatever they call this, ivory white. Gibson did make this. So we just changed the color.
Give me a riff off of that one. Are you in tune?
Yeah. Let me tune this thing.
Yeah.
I have not touched the frets or the neck or adjusted anything for however long I've had this guitar. Never been touched.
That's amazing. That's a beauty, Earl.
It's great, man. I love, and it's got the little neck on it,
got to tell you, that's good for my soul, man. That's
I love
good.
this thing, man.
Yeah, yeah.
The only thing is I never take it ever anywhere. I mean, if I'm going to do a session at my house or something, because I always use the same studio, the clubhouse in Rhinebeck, New York. It's the only place I'll take it because I got to keep it close.
Yeah. You can't put it in danger. There's too much.
No,
You never know in the world.
I've got a few guitars here, man. That I keep an eye on them. I do.
Earl, you were gigging early. I mean, you were what, 16 when you started playing shows? And
I did. When I was 16, they called the underage clubs.
Mm.
So they didn't have alcohol. That way, kids could go in there. And then even at that point, I was too young to fake looking 18.
Mm.
But when I was 17, we all got fake IDs. We got draft cards. So once I got the fake ID, the guys at the club knew it, but we had the cards and, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I started playing. I would say by 17 years old, I started doing a lot of gigs. And by 18 years old, 5 gigs a week, 52 weeks a year, every year.
So from 12 or 13 to 18, your dad watched you grow into this guy who's professionally playing music. What did he say about that at that time?
It was funny because when I got out of high school, I was 17 years old, and he didn't had any idea that I was going to do anything with this, so he wanted me to get a job. I said, look, Pop, I just want the summer up, okay? In September, I'll get a job. But I was still playing at that point, 17. I was still doing the 3 gigs a week on average. And in those couple of days, I made more money than I did working an entire 40-hour week. And I got a job on Wall Street as a runner. So that's a message. That's a guy that takes little notes and letters from your company. You walk all around Wall Street and you hand them to people. I worked for a coffee import company. So they used to give me little bags with beans in them. And I would finish that. And then some nights I'd be gigging. Wouldn't get home till 3 in the morning, and I had to be at work at 9. Do you know what, Pop? I'm making $250 a week playing and $56 after taxes in Wall Street. I'm done.
What did he say?
He had it was a mixed emotion. I was too old for him to take a fit on me, right?
Yeah.
But I was primarily still living in his house. But if it wasn't for my mother, that would have turned into a real fiasco. My mother she was my inspiration. She's the one that supported me. I mean, I'd come back from school when I was in high school, and I walk in the house, and there's a Stones record on, and my mother's dancing around the living room. So I had support from her. She really was my little angel.
One of the things that I really find most, impressive from you, Earl, is, Yoko Ono gets a lot of bad press. She always has. And you are one of the few rock and rollers who will give her a generous sort of analysis, right? You treat her really well. And you recognize that she was the recipient of a lot of anger and hate because of her gender and because of her origin. So I'd love to hear you talk about your experience with Yoko. John, too, but especially working with Yoko on...
If we address Yoko, is that she's truly an artist. I mean, her brain goes off into fucking places nobody else does. And back then, people wouldn't accept... First of all, she was Japanese, half Japanese. Yeah. And think about it. When she got with John, World War II was only over for like 15, 16 years, right? So the Japanese still had a stigma. So what's he do? He goes find a Japanese woman. So now John loved pissing people off anyway. That's what I loved about him, right?
Yeah.
But I found that when we did Double Fantasy, I found her, number one, easy to work with, very creative, and with the stuff that I did with her on Milk and Honey, and well, they were recorded at the same time. Milk and Honey and Double Fantasy came out of the same sessions. And I found myself using some of the tricks that David got me into during Station. And she loved that stuff. Now, that stuff didn't fit into John's, but it fit into her stuff. And that's why she called me back when we did the Season of Glass record, March of 81.
Who was your producer? It was Jack on that, wasn't it?
No, Jack was on the Double Fantasy and Milk and Honey.
Oh, right, okay.
Then she brings in Phil fucking Spector. Oh, my God. For the Season of Glass record. Thank God she got rid of him after about 2 weeks. It was a friggin' nightmare. And then basically we produced it. It was the same exact band for Double Fantasy, same engineer. Jack couldn't do it because he was off to another thing. So once we got rid of Spector, we kind of did it ourselves.
And not long after that, 83, I think it was, you were back on tour with Bowie.
Yeah.
And you wrapped up on December 8th, right? You wrapped the tour.
Nobody knows that. That's good you knew that.
The same day on the anniversary of John's death, I mean, and you brought in Imagine. Was there an argument? What song? How did you decide to bring in Imagine?
It was a weird thing because really that decision was up to me and David, right?
Yeah.
Because I was the guitar player. John and David were friends. Bowie was a big fan of John's. So we were sitting on the plane. I used to love those private planes at the time. I mean, I got so spoiled now, man. Oh my God. Anyway, we were sitting in a plane like a couple days before we did the gig in where the hell was it? Hong Kong?
Hong Kong, that's right. Yeah.
And so, well, what are we gonna do? I said, should we do something? Yeah, we have to. So I came up with Across the Universe, and he came up with Imagine, and obviously he won because he's the boss. But either way. Yeah, because I always had an affinity for Universe for some reason. It's one of my favorite pieces that John wrote.
It's an amazing song. I don't care who does it. It's an amazing piece of work. Yeah,
song.
Totally.
It's a great song.
I can imagine. I mean, David and John know each other. You and John know each other. You and David are performing. Can you tell me what the emotion, and it's on the anniversary of his death?
I couldn't look at David while we were doing it. I couldn't. Because I think if I looked at him, it was hard enough because it was fresh, man. John only died 3 years earlier.
Yeah.
And it was fresh in our heads and very emotional. I was fighting back tears the whole time. I was like, if I look at Bowie, I'm going to start bawling. And it ain't a good look, man. Breaking out crying in front of like 20,000 people,
Yeah.
It was an emotional. And he did sit down at the front of the stage and he talked a little bit. And yeah, it was great, but very emotional, really emotional.
Still, to this day, I mean, there are a few days that through the course of a year, I recognize Jerry's death, John's death. There's a few things that are just, you got to stop and take a minute and reflect.
It's a weird thing because you lose people, right? We're going to get lost. Everybody has an expiration date on them. If it's your grandma and she's 90, it's sad. But she was 90, and she died of natural causes. Murders are really a weird thing to deal with, which I didn't realize till years later when I ended up having to go to goddamn shrink about it.
So I've read your book, Earl, Guitar. I think it's a great book, by the way, but part of what sticks with me from that period is how, for Yoko to be so abused as she was by the press and by other rock and rollers and other artists. I mean, it was widespread. She just she was not granted the time to mourn, right?
But the press just jumped all over that, and some of these assholes still do it.
Yeah.
I mean, she's an artist, way off the grid for sure, but she's a fucking artist just like the rest of us are. So give some respect. And I found that I worked very well with her because when we did Season of Glass, a lot of nights after the sessions, I'd end up back with her to Dakota, listening to the, tapes of the day, going over ideas. I think that was more about her needing some company because I was very close with John.
Yeah.
And she knew that. So I ended up with her a lot of times just going to the Dakota. You know, it was weird too because I was staying on 64th Street, just on the other side of Central Park. So John was on the west side, my hotel was on the east side. And so we'd leave the studio, get in the car with armed guys, and then when I left the Dakota, the armed guys would take me back to my hotel and walk me to my room. I'd open the door. They would do like when the police clear a house. It was that intense. Yeah, it was ridiculous. And then a few weeks in, Reagan gets shot, and we stopped the sessions for about 5 days. It was just the idea of it, seeing that happen. Had nothing to do whether we liked Reagan or we didn't. It wasn't political.
Yeah.
It just pushed a lot of buttons for all of us.
I mean, right on the heels, so you had to take steps, right?
Oh yeah, it was intense, man. I mean, it was just a weird thing. I actually have a poster which nobody's seen, but I have a poster for the beginning of the tour that was made. We were going out on a world tour in '81. Well, we didn't, but that was the plan.
Speaking of artistry, aside from your guitar work, Earl, you sent me the picture of the woodcut, I guess you'd call it, that you restored recently.
Yeah, I can't draw, and it's one of the most frustrating things in my life. Even as a kid, I used to get really mad when I couldn't do it, and I'd break the pencils and rip the paper up, and I realized what I'm good at is envisioning something, and just doing something unusual to it. You know, paint-wise or art-wise. That project I just did, I found this old carving. It's made out of ironwood. It weighs like as much as a car, this friggin' thing. But it was pretty old, probably 100 years plus. And the color was gone. And over the last month or so, I would do 3 or 4 hours a night until I was happy with it. I just finished it.
Can I put that little section of video in this?
Absolutely.
All
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I'd love to show that.
I love doing it too because it's like the guitar, but even more so where once I start doing, like last night, I think I started, my artistic brain does not kick in till about 9 or 10 at night. So I started last night, and all of a sudden, I started going, I'm a little tired. What's going on? I looked at the clock. I said, holy shit, it's 3:30 in the morning. You know, I get lost in it. I get totally lost in it.
Yeah. That's the best thing about art, right? The universe goes away.
Man, you got it, man. When people ask about what it's like being on stage and everything, the entire world, the day-to-day world is gone. There's no politics in my head. I'm not worried about I don't think about anything. My thinking shuts off and I just become me. Whatever the essence of me is, without all the extraneous shit, especially now with the internet being a shit show, it all flushes away. Even before the internet, as soon as we got on stage, man, the whole world just goes away. You don't worry about nothing. You're just there.
So the essence of you, Earl, is fucking amazing rhythm and licks, right? And bringing to life something that is much bigger than any of it. I wanted to ask you, what are you up to these days? So you got a guitar line. What else are you doing? Wow.
Right now, what we're working on this event for November 7th and 8th in Scotland, where we're going to do the set with the band and all the stuff we talked about. My manager's they're handling all the business end. So about 3 weeks ago, I thought, you know what? I don't remember the last time, if ever, that I said, I'm going to unplug myself for a while. So I'm hanging out at home, got my dog, got my amps, I'm playing, I'm writing some tunes with a friend of mine, I'm doing some artwork, and just kind of, I need a reboot. I really do, because, especially this last year, with the guys putting together the event. There's been a lot of business there. I mean, I've already made 4 trips to the UK, for this thing. So you know what? I'm unplugged. I'm like, and you know what? It's so good. No schedule, no phone calls. The only thing I am doing, for sure, is a session with myself and Tony Levin, my brother. I love him so much, man. He's been family since Double Fantasy.
Yeah.
So every once in a while, we're on the same session. So I'm doing that sometime in August, a 2-day thing. At the Clubhouse Studios, which, over the last 20 years, I worked more in that studio than anywhere. It's an amazing place, man. It really is. I did 2 of my own records in there. I've done a lot of stuff in there. The unplugging this summer's done me a lot of good. If you're in a band if you're in the Rolling Stones or a band that's been around a long time, it's much different. You've got a family, which is your band. You've been doing it so long that, it's automatic. And when you're off, it's a different thing. Because, if you're going to stay in this business and you haven't hit that level, you do need to expand into other areas. I've done things what they call library music. I got a guy that has a library company. Once in a blue moon, I'll cut 5 tracks for him. And then they get played behind bullfighting shows and sporting events, that shit in the background. But you know what? It pays well, it's invisible, and it's fun. So I like doing that. I love sitting in when people come around, like with Buddy Guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That was like out of the blue, and I ended up sitting with Buddy a dozen times or more, because the first night I met him, I was in Chicago. I have a friend there. He's a doctor, he's a surgeon that loves music, right? I said, let's go to Buddy Guy's club. Because sometimes he plays, and Chris said, he's out of town. I said, well, let's go anyway. Who's playing? He goes, Edgar Winter. And Edgar played on one of my records. He played sax. So I went and said hi, and I ended up sitting in with him. I played almost the whole show with him. And I'm standing on stage, and in Buddy's club, you can see the door. And 3/4 of the way through, Buddy walks in. And I went, wow. So Chris introduced us, and I love the way you play, man. He said, you're invited to sit in with me anytime. So a month later, I went to the club when he did his residency, and that was the first time I played with him.
After you're done playing with Buddy Guy, I can't even imagine. That's like everything all at once. How do you clear your head after that, Earl?
Oh my God, the first night I sat in with him, I was so buzzed out, and I got up in the morning and I walked for 2 hours in Chicago in the middle of January to walk off the excitement of it.
Yeah.
Because,
oh my God.
I've had a lot of journalists ask what, my most memorable things I've ever done, and they're expecting Bowie or Lennon. I said, no, it was Buddy Guy inviting me to play, because here I am with a guy who I've always admired, that's basically telling me I'm good enough of a blues player to be on stage with him. That meant everything to me. It really did.
And he's one of the originals, right? I mean, he goes all the way back.
He's the end of it, man.
Yeah.
I don't know who's left. I think that's it.
There's nothing better, as you say, Earl. That's like Buddy Guy said, it must be true.
It don't get better than that, man.
It doesn't.
And what I did see, and this is no disrespect to the other guitar players, but when he did the Hendrix thing, this is right before the pandemic, I went to see it, right? And went backstage. I saw Buddy, said hi, but I wanted to watch the show. So I went in the back and watched the show. And it was like Eric Johnson and Zach Wild, all these kind of guys up there, right? They're all great guitar players. So Buddy came on last, obviously, because he would have to be the headline guy. 2 notes into the first song, I just got the shivers. The guitar went right through my brain. There was something that projected out of him. He was the only guy, too, that was not using any pedals except his wah-wah.
Yeah. He doesn't need it.
And plays louder than shit, this guy.
And he's got sustain that doesn't ever end. I don't know how he does that, but it's just like, oh my God.
For me, as a kid, when I first started seeing shows, when he was doing it back then, and he'd have to have guys, he had like a cord, his guitar cord was like 1,000 feet long,
Yeah.
and they'd all have to hold it during the audience. Now they got, wireless, but he still does it.
He
And
still
I
does it,
love, too,
yeah.
especially at the club, when he gets into insulting the audience. He's hysterical. And his guitar picks are these big odd-shaped ones like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was stealing them. I was taking shit out of his road case. I got strapped here and say he'd give them to me anyway. I just raid his roadie desk, and I started using the reason I was stealing the picks. At one side it would say "Buddy Guy," and the back would say "Go fuck yourself" or something like that. He had all these. I still got a bunch of them here, but I got used to the picks. I've been using them ever since now for 11 years because of him.
Do you always pick, Earl, or do you do fingers as well?
Now I'm using my fingers about 3/4 of the time because I always played with my fingers, but after a while, any guitar player, you're going to end up with nerve damage and arthritis in your hands and your wrists.
Yeah.
And when I'm playing with a pick for a whole show, at one point, the nerves will just kind of freeze up, and but I mean, I've been playing everything I just played. You heard me play has all been except for stay. Everything's been my fingers.
All the fingers. Yeah.
I'm using them all the time, and I actually like it because I can make sounds with my fingers I cannot do with a pick.
Yeah, and there's something, I don't know, the pick has its place, but for me, finger picking always just sounds like there's something more, I guess, organic about it, right? It feels
It is,
realer.
and you could just do different things with it, I can't do that with a pick. It won't sound like that. And I got good at it finally because every day when I wake up, this is what I do. 2 hours I play every day because when I went to the doctors about the hands being fucked up, he didn't know what I did for a living. He said, "You're going to need physical therapy." He said, "What do you do for a living?" I said, "I'm a guitar player." He goes, "Well, here it is. Do you play every day?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Add more time every day." It's made me really learn how to use my fingers. And watch Jeff Beck. He hasn't used a pick in years. He wasn't using a pick.
Yeah, since the Yardbirds, right?
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, I better call Zach back and do it. This went sideways and a half.
I love it.
So,
million thanks, Earl. I really appreciate your time.
This was fun.
Yeah.
Well, let me know when you get edited up and you're ready to roll and all that. Yeah.
Anything you want, Earl.
Earl Slick reminds us that greatness isn't always about standing out. Sometimes it's about listening, finding the heartbeat, and bringing exactly what the music needs. I'm Scott Cady. Thanks for listening to The Sum of All Wisdom. If today's conversation resonated with you, I'd invite you to continue exploring it. Visit thesumofallwisdom.com for show notes, essays, transcripts, field notes, and our listening rooms, where each conversation becomes part of a larger archive of musical craft and creative wisdom. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, following the show, leaving a review, or sharing it with someone who loves music and the people who make it. For now, I'm Scott Cady. Remember to stay curious, listen deeply, and keep cultivating your perception. See you next time.